The planet Kethris 4 was not a beautiful place. It was gray and cold, covered in rocks and dust that never seemed to settle. The sky was the color of old metal, and the wind carried a bitter chill that cut through even the thickest clothing. But for the 3,000 humans who lived in the mining colony there, it was home. Danny Cole stood at his forge, watching the flames dance in the pit before him. He was a blacksmith, like his father had been, and his grandfather before that. His family had been shaping metal for over 400 years, back when Earth was still the only world humans knew. Now, in an age of machines that could print any tool in minutes, Danny still worked with fire and hammer and his own 2 hands. Most people thought his job was useless. The colony had fabrication machines that could make anything from a simple bolt to a complex engine part. But those machines could not fix everything. The miners on Kethris 4 dug up strange things from deep underground. Alien artifacts, ancient tools made from metals that no human machine could understand. When those things needed repair, the machines failed. But Danny's hands did not fail. He pulled a glowing piece of iron from the coals and set it on his anvil. The hammer came down with a ringing sound that echoed through his small workshop. Sparks flew like tiny stars. Danny smiled. This was the only music he needed. His wife, Nora Finch, appeared in the doorway. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and clever hands. She worked as an engineer in the colony's power station, keeping the lights on and the air clean. She watched Danny work for a moment, then spoke. "They found something," she said. "Something big." Danny did not look up from his work. "They always find something. Not like this." Nora's voice was different now, serious. "Greg Holt has locked down the whole excavation site. Military guards everywhere. They're saying it's alive." That made Danny stop. He set down his hammer and turned to face her. "Alive? What do you mean alive?" "I don't know, but they want you down there. Something about the restraints. The machines can't touch them." Danny wiped the sweat from his face with a cloth that was more ash than fabric. He had been called to examine alien artifacts before, but never anything that was alive. He felt a strange feeling in his chest. Not fear exactly. Something else. Something like curiosity, mixed with fate. The trip down to the excavation site took nearly an hour. Danny rode a mining elevator that dropped 3 kilometers into the planet's crust. The air grew warmer as he descended, heated by the planet's core. When the elevator finally stopped, he stepped out into a tunnel lit by harsh white lights. Commander Greg Holt was waiting for him. Holt was a big man with a face like a clenched fist. He wore the gray uniform of the Colonial Defense Force and carried himself like someone who was used to giving orders. He did not look happy to see Danny. "You're the blacksmith," Holt said. It was not a question. "I am." "Good. Follow me. And don't touch anything until I tell you to." They walked through tunnels that twisted deeper into the rock. Danny saw soldiers standing at every corner, their weapons ready. Whatever they had found, they were afraid of it. That made Danny more curious than ever. Finally, they reached a massive chamber. It had been carved out of the rock by something that was not human. The walls were smooth and covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift when Danny looked at them too long. But the symbols were not what made his breath catch in his throat. In the center of the chamber was a creature. It was enormous. Its body was long and serpentine, like a snake the size of a train. But it had legs too. 4 of them, each ending in claws that looked like they could tear through steel. Its scales were black as the space between stars, and they seemed to drink in the light around them. Great wings lay folded against its sides, and its head was crowned with horns that curved like crescent moons. It was a dragon. That was the only word Danny's mind could find for it. A dragon from the oldest stories, the kind his grandmother used to tell him about when he was a boy. But this was no story. This was real. The creature was wrapped in chains. Massive links of dark metal bound its legs, its wings, its neck. The chains were connected to the walls and floor by stakes driven deep into the rock. The dragon was not moving, but Danny could see its sides rising and falling with slow breaths. It was alive. It was sleeping. "What is it?" Danny whispered. We don't know, Holt said. Our scanners can't identify the species. It's been here for a long time. Maybe centuries. Maybe longer. Danny stepped closer, drawn by something he could not explain. The chains were old, very old, but they were not corroded or weak. They looked as strong as the day they were made. He reached out and touched one of the links. The metal was warm under his fingers. He could feel patterns in it, tiny marks left by tools. Someone had made these chains by hand. Someone had forged them, link by link, just like Danny forged his own work. The restraints are interfering with our equipment, Holt said. Every drone we send in shuts down. Every scanner gives us nothing but static. We need to know how these chains work. Can you figure it out? Danny did not answer right away. He was studying the point where several chains met and joined. There was a lock there, big and heavy and covered in symbols like the walls, but beneath the symbols, he could see something familiar. Pins and tumblers. Springs and catches. It was a mechanical lock, old technology. The kind of thing his ancestors had made before electricity was discovered. This isn't electronic, Danny said slowly. It's mechanical. Whoever made these chains, they didn't use computers or power cells. They forged them. By hand. And they locked them with a key. Holt frowned. Can you open it? Before Danny could answer, something changed. The air in the chamber grew heavy. The lights flickered. And the dragon's eyes opened. They were like looking into the heart of a dying sun. Gold and orange and red, swirling with ancient fire. The eyes found Danny. And he felt something push against his mind. A voice. Old and deep and tired beyond measure. You, the voice said, though the dragon's mouth did not move. You smell of iron and fire. You are a maker. A shaper of metal. Danny's heart was pounding, but he did not run. He stood his ground and looked into those burning eyes. Yes, he said. I'm a blacksmith. The dragon's eyes seemed to soften. Something like a sigh passed through the chamber. Then perhaps, the voice said, after all these centuries, freedom has finally come. The soldiers raised their weapons the moment the dragon's eyes opened. Commander Holt shouted orders. Red targeting lights danced across the creature's dark scales, but Danny did not move. He stood there, frozen not by fear but by wonder, as the ancient voice continued to speak inside his mind. Do not be afraid, little maker, the dragon said. I have not the strength to harm you, even if I wished it. And I do not wish it. I have never wished harm upon your kind. Stand back, Cole, Holt commanded. Get away from that thing. But Danny ignored him. He took a step closer instead. The dragon's eyes followed him with a strange gentleness that did not match its terrifying form. What are you? Danny asked. How long have you been here? I am called Valethor, the dragon answered. I am Keth Vorin. My people ruled 1,000 worlds when your ancestors were still learning to chip stone into tools, and I have been chained in this darkness for 800 of your years. 800 years. Danny could barely imagine it. 8 centuries of silence and stone, and endless waiting. The thought of it made his chest ache. Why? He asked. Why did they put you here? Valethor's eyes dimmed, and Danny felt something like sadness wash through the connection between them. It was not his own emotion. It belonged to the dragon, because I refused to kill. Valethor said. My people discovered your species long ago, during what you call the First Contact Wars. The Dominion saw humans as pests, vermin to be burned away so we could take your worlds. I was a warrior then, a destroyer. They sent me to burn your colony ships as they fled from us. The dragon paused. Its great chest rose and fell with a heavy breath, but I did not burn them. I watched your people through the windows of their ships. I saw mothers holding children. I saw elders teaching young ones. I saw courage and fear and love and hope, all the things my own people had forgotten long ago, and I could not bring myself to end those lives. Danny listened in silence. Around him, the soldiers had lowered their weapons slightly. Even Holt seemed caught by the dragon's words. I let the ships go, Vilethor continued. I told my commanders that I had destroyed them, but I lied. Those humans escaped. They survived. And from them, your civilization grew. But my deception was discovered. The Dominion does not forgive mercy. They called me a traitor. They chained me with bonds forged by our greatest smiths and buried me on this dead world, which they then abandoned. They left me here to rot until the end of time. Danny felt anger rise in him. Not at the dragon, but at the creatures who had done this. They had punished Vilethor for showing kindness, for sparing lives, for being good. That's not right, Danny said. You saved us. You saved my ancestors. And they punished you for it. Such is the way of the Dominion, Vilethor said. They value obedience above all else. To them, an order is sacred. But I learned something that day. When I watched your ships flee into the stars, I learned that some things are more sacred than orders. Some things are worth any punishment. Commander Holt stepped forward. His face was hard to read. How do we know you're telling the truth? This could all be a trick. Vilethor turned its burning gaze toward the commander. You do not know. You have only my word. But ask yourself this, human soldier. If I were your enemy, why would I speak to you at all? Why would I not simply wait in silence until my strength returned, and then break free to destroy you? I speak because I wish you to understand. I speak because, after 800 years of darkness, I want to see the sun again, and I cannot do that alone. The words hung in the air. Danny looked at the chains again. They were massive, forged from metal that seemed to absorb the light. But they were still chains. And every chain could be broken. I want to help you, Danny said. Holt grabbed his arm. That's not your decision to make. Then whose decision is it? Danny pulled his arm free. This creature saved our people. Without it, none of us would exist. My family, your family, everyone in this colony, and every human in the galaxy owes their life to what Vilethor did. Don't we owe something back? Holt's jaw tightened. I have orders. This site is under military control. No one touches those chains without authorization from command. Then get authorization. It doesn't work that way, Cole. You're a blacksmith. You don't understand how these things work. Danny stared at him. I understand that a debt is a debt, and I understand that right is right, no matter what orders say. Holt said nothing. He turned and walked away, gesturing for his soldiers to follow. Soon Danny was alone in the chamber with Vilethor. You are brave, the dragon said. Brave and foolish. Your commander will not help me. His masters will see me as a weapon to be studied, or a threat to be destroyed. They will not see me as a being who deserves freedom. Then I'll help you myself, Danny said. How? The chains were forged by the greatest smiths of the Dominion. They were made to last forever. Danny reached out and touched the lock again. He felt the mechanisms inside, the way the pieces fit together. It was complex, but it was not magic. It was metal shaped by hands and fire, just like everything he had ever made. Your smiths were good, Danny said. But they made a mistake. They built these locks to be opened with a key. That means a key exists. And if a key can exist, it can be made. Vilethor was silent for a long moment. Then something like a laugh rumbled through Danny's mind. You are an interesting creature, Danny Cole. Your people have always surprised me. Even in the old days, when you had nothing but sticks and stones, you found ways to survive. You built and created and adapted. It seems you have not changed. We're stubborn, Danny said with a small smile. It's one of our better qualities. Then be stubborn now, little maker. Forge your key. Free me from this darkness. And I will owe you a debt that I will spend the rest of my very long life repaying. Danny nodded. He took one last look at the chains, memorizing their shape and structure. Then he turned and walked back toward the elevator. He had work to do. That night, in his small workshop, Danny began to draw. He sketched the chains as he remembered them, every link and every lock. Nora sat beside him, watching by the light of his forge. "This is dangerous," she said quietly. "I know. Holt will have you arrested if he finds out." "I know." Nora was silent for a moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. "Tell me what you need," she said. "I'll help you get it." Danny looked at his wife. She was afraid. He could see it in her eyes. But she was also determined. That was one of the reasons he loved her. "I need everything you can find about alien metallurgy," he said. "And I need access to the excavation reports. There might be clues about how these chains were made." Nora nodded. "I'll get them. Whatever it takes." Danny squeezed her hand. Then he turned back to his drawings and began to plan. The weeks that followed were the hardest of Danny's life. He worked in secret, forging late into the night when the colony was asleep, and the sounds of his hammer would not draw attention. By day he did his normal work, fixing tools and making parts for the miners. By night he wrestled with the greatest challenge he had ever faced. The chains that held Violethor were made from a metal that did not exist on any human world. Nora had found records in the excavation database that called it void steel, a name given by the first scientists who studied it. It absorbed light and resisted heat. Normal forging techniques did nothing to it. Danny tried everything. He heated his furnace until the walls glowed white. He used acids and electrical currents, and combinations of pressure that would have crushed ordinary steel into powder. Nothing worked. The void steel laughed at his efforts. On the 14th night, Danny threw his hammer across the workshop in frustration. It crashed into a shelf and sent tools clattering to the floor. He sat down heavily on his workbench and put his head in his hands. Nora found him like that an hour later. She did not say anything at first. She just sat beside him and waited. "I can't do it," Danny said finally. "The metal is too strong. I don't have the tools or the knowledge. The Dominion Smiths had technology we can't even imagine." Nora was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke in a soft voice. "Tell me about your grandfather." Danny looked up. "What?" "Your grandfather. You talk about him sometimes. About the things he taught you." Danny did not understand where she was going, but he answered anyway. "He was the best smith I ever knew. He learned from his father, who learned from his father. Going back generations, they kept the old ways alive even when everyone else forgot them." "What old ways?" "Pattern welding. Folding the steel over and over again to make it stronger. Layering different metals together to create something new. It's how they used to make the great swords. Back on Earth, Damascus steel, they called it. My grandfather could make blades that sang when you swung them." Nora nodded slowly. "The excavation reports mentioned something. The scientists couldn't figure it out, so they ignored it. But the void steel isn't pure. It's layered, different metals folded together, thousands of times." Danny's head came up. "Layered? That's what the scans showed. The Dominion didn't use pure void steel. They combined it with other metals, folding them together like Damascus steel." Danny stood up. His exhaustion was forgotten. His mind was racing. "That's why nothing works," he said. "I've been treating it like a single metal, trying to break through by force. But it's not one metal. It's many, woven together. I have to understand the pattern. I have to work with it, instead of against it." He grabbed his tools and went back to the forge. Nora watched him with hope in her eyes. It took 3 more weeks. Danny studied the samples of void steel he had taken from the chamber. He heated them slowly, carefully, watching how the layers responded. He learned their rhythm, their language, and then, using techniques his grandfather had taught him when he was just a boy, he began to forge. He did not try to break the void steel. Instead, he created a key that could speak to it. He folded iron and copper and strange metals from the mining pits, layering them together in patterns that echoed the chains themselves. His hands bled from the work, his eyes burned from the heat, but he did not stop. On the night he finished the first key, he held it up to the light. It was not pretty. It was rough and scarred, marked by countless hammer blows. But when he looked at it, he knew it would work. He could feel it in his bones. "That's only one key," Nora said. "The reports show 7 locks. Then I'll make 7 keys. It took 2 more months. Danny lost weight. His hair grew long and unkempt. His customers complained that their orders were late, but every night he returned to his secret work, forging key after key until his hands knew the motions without thought. When the 7th key was finished, Danny finally slept for a full night. He dreamed of fire and scales and eyes like burning suns. When he woke, Nora was standing over him with worry on her face. "Holt knows something is wrong," she said. "He's been watching you. He has soldiers following you." Danny sat up. "Then we have to move tonight." "How?" "The chamber is locked down. There are guards everywhere. You know the colony's systems better than anyone. There has to be another way in." Nora hesitated. Then she pulled out a tablet and showed him a map of the ventilation system. "There's an old maintenance shaft that runs parallel to the excavation tunnels. It's too small for the soldiers to patrol, but it leads to within 50 meters of the chamber. And the last 50 meters? There's a service door. It's supposed to be sealed, but the lock is old. Basic electronics. I can bypass it from the main power station." Danny looked at his wife. She was risking everything for him, for a creature she had never even met. He took her hand and held it tight. "Thank you," he said. "Don't thank me yet. We still have to get you there." They waited until the colony's night cycle, when the lights dimmed and most people slept. Nora went to the power station and began her work. Danny gathered the 7 keys and wrapped them in cloth. He moved through the shadows like a ghost, avoiding the soldiers that Holt had posted throughout the colony. The maintenance shaft was cramped and dark. Danny crawled through it for what felt like hours. His keys clutched against his chest. Every sound made him freeze. Every shadow made his heart pound, but he kept going. When he finally reached the service door, he found it already open. Nora had done her part. He slipped through and found himself in a narrow tunnel that led toward the chamber. He could feel Veilithor's presence before he saw the dragon. It was like a warmth in his mind, a steady pulse that grew stronger with each step. When he finally entered the chamber, the dragon's eyes were already open, watching him. "You came back," Veilithor said. There was something like wonder in its voice. "I thought perhaps you had forgotten. Or changed your mind." "Changed your mind." Danny held up the wrapped bundle. "I made your keys. Show me." Danny unwrapped the cloth and spread the 7 keys on the stone floor. They were ugly things, crude compared to the elegant locks they were meant to open. But Veilithor looked at them for a long moment, and then something like a laugh rumbled through Danny's mind. "Damascus steel," the dragon said. "You used an ancient technique. A human technique. The same method the greatest swordsmiths of your world perfected thousands of years ago." "It was all I knew," Danny said. "I hoped it would be enough." "It is more than enough," Veilithor said. "The Dominion's smiths were masters of technology. They built their chains to resist any tool, any machine, any power, but they never considered that someone might use the oldest methods, the simplest methods. They thought your people had forgotten such things." Danny picked up the first key and walked toward the nearest lock. "We haven't forgotten," he said. "We never forget." Danny's hands were shaking as he lifted the first key to the first lock. The void steel was cold under his fingers, but the key itself felt warm, alive somehow with the memory of all the fire that had shaped it. He slid it into the lock and turned. For a moment, nothing happened. Danny's heart sank. Then he heard it. A click, soft but clear, like a whisper in the darkness. The first chain fell away from Veilithor's foreleg and crashed to the ground with a sound like thunder. The dragon let out a breath that filled the chamber with warmth. Its scales began to shimmer, faint traces of fire flickering beneath the surface. After 800 years, the first chain was broken. 6 more, Danny said, moving to the next lock. The second key fit perfectly. Another click, another chain fell. Veilithor stretched its freed limb, claws scraping against the stone floor. The dragon's voice in Danny's mind was stronger now, clearer. "I had forgotten what it felt like," Veilithor said. "To move. To breathe, without weight pressing down on me." Danny did not pause. He moved to the third lock, then the fourth. Each key turned as if it had been made for that exact purpose. And in a way, it had been. Danny had spent months learning the language of these chains, and his keys spoke that language fluently. 5 chains lay broken on the ground. Veilithor's wings twitched, trying to unfold after centuries of being bound. The dragon's scales were glowing now, deep red light pulsing beneath the black surface like a heartbeat. Danny reached for the 6th lock. But before he could touch it, he heard footsteps. Many footsteps, coming fast. Commander Holt appeared at the chamber entrance, a squad of soldiers behind him. Their weapons were raised, their faces grim. Holt's eyes swept across the scene, taking in the broken chains, the glowing dragon, and Danny standing with a key in his hand. "Step away from the creature," Holt said. His voice was cold and hard. "Right now, Cole." Danny did not move. "I can't do that. That wasn't a request. You're committing treason. You're endangering this entire colony. I'm freeing someone who was punished for saving us." Holt's jaw tightened. "That thing is not a person. It's a weapon. A tool of an alien empire that wants to destroy humanity. And you're letting it loose." "It's neither of those things," Danny said. "It's a prisoner. A prisoner who showed mercy when it didn't have to. Just like I'm showing mercy now." "Mercy." Holt spat the word like it tasted bad. "Mercy is a luxury we can't afford. If that creature gets free, it could turn on us. It could contact its people. It could bring the Dominion down on all of us." Veilithor's voice rumbled through the minds of everyone in the chamber. The soldiers flinched. Some of them took a step back. "I will not turn on you," the dragon said. "I did not turn on your ancestors 800 years ago. And I will not turn now. The Dominion abandoned me. They are no longer my people. If anything, you are." "Pretty words," Holt said. "But I've heard pretty words before. From politicians. From criminals. From enemies pretending to be friends. I don't trust words. I trust actions." "Then watch my actions," Veilithor said. "And judge me by what I do, not by what you fear I might do." Holt hesitated. Danny could see the conflict in his eyes. The commander was not a cruel man. He was scared. Scared of making a mistake that would cost lives. Scared of being responsible for a disaster. Danny understood that fear, but he also knew that fear could not be allowed to win. "Commander," Danny said quietly, "my family has been making things for 400 years. We've learned that you can tell a lot about something by how it was made. Those chains were made with hate. They were made to cause suffering that would never end. But the creature they're holding has never shown anything but kindness to humans. Which one should we trust?" Holt did not answer. His weapon was still raised, but his finger had moved away from the trigger. Danny turned back to the 6th lock. He could feel the tension in the room, the soldiers waiting for an order, Holt waiting for a reason. He slid the key in and turned it. The 6th chain fell. Veilithor's wings snapped open. They were enormous, stretching across the chamber like sails made of shadow. The dragon rose to its full height for the first time in 8 centuries. And Danny realized just how massive it truly was. Its head nearly touched the ceiling. Its tail curled around the chamber walls. It was beautiful and terrible, like a storm given form. One of the soldiers fired. The shot went wide, striking the wall above Veilithor's head. More soldiers raised their weapons, ready to follow. But Veilithor did not attack. Instead, the dragon moved. It was faster than anything that large should be. One moment it was rising, the next it was between Danny and the soldiers, its great body forming a living shield. "I will not let you harm him," Veilithor said. Its voice was calm but firm. "This man has done what none of my own people would do. He has shown compassion to a stranger. He has risked everything to right an ancient wrong. If you wish to shoot him, you will have to go through me." Holt stared at the dragon. The creature had every reason to attack. It had been imprisoned for centuries, shot at by soldiers, treated as a threat. But instead of violence, It chose protection. Instead of revenge, it chose gratitude. "Stand down," Holt said quietly. "Sir?" One of the soldiers looked confused. "I said stand down." Holt lowered his own weapon. "All of you, lower your weapons." The soldiers obeyed, though they looked uncertain. Holt stepped forward, past his men, until he was standing just a few meters from Velothor's massive head. "Why?" he asked. "Why protect him? Why not just fly away?" "Because I remember what it was like to have someone show me mercy," Velothor said. 800 years ago, I spared your people because I saw something worth saving. Today, Danny Cole proved that I was right. I will not abandon those who stand by their principles, even when it costs them everything." Holt was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to Danny. "Finish it," he said. Danny blinked. "What?" "The last lock. Finish what you started." Danny looked at Holt, searching his face for any sign of a trick, but the commander's expression was weary and thoughtful. Whatever battle had been fought inside him, a decision had been made. Danny walked to the final lock. The seventh key felt heavy in his hand, as if it understood the importance of this moment. He slid it into the lock, took a deep breath, and turned. The last chain fell with a sound like the ending of an age. Velothor was free. The dragon stood in the center of the chamber, unchained for the first time in 800 years. Light played across its scales, fire and shadow dancing together. It turned its ancient eyes toward Danny and bowed its great head. "Thank you, Danny Cole," it said. "I am in your debt." Danny smiled, exhausted and relieved, and filled with a strange kind of joy. "You can start by meeting my wife," he said. "She helped make this possible." For the first time, Velothor laughed. It was a rumbling sound that shook the walls, but there was no threat in it. Only warmth. Only gratitude. Only hope. The news of Velothor's freedom spread across the colony within hours. By morning, every human on Kethris IV knew that an ancient alien dragon was walking among them. Some were terrified. Others were curious. A few demanded that the creature be captured or killed, but Commander Holt, to the surprise of many, ordered that Velothor be treated as a guest. The dragon did not hide. On its first day of freedom, it walked slowly through the colony's main corridor, its massive body barely fitting between the walls. Miners stopped their work to stare. Children pressed their faces against windows. An old woman crossed herself and whispered a prayer. But Velothor harmed no one. It simply walked, breathing the recycled air as if it were the sweetest wind, looking at everything with eyes that had not seen the living world in 8 centuries. Danny walked beside the dragon, feeling small and proud at the same time. Nora was on his other side, her hand in his. She had met Velothor that morning, and though she had been nervous at first, the dragon's gentle manner had put her at ease. "Your colony is beautiful," Velothor said, its voice a soft rumble in their minds. "I know you think this world is ugly, gray rock and cold wind, but to me, after so long in darkness, it is the most beautiful place I have ever seen. Wait until you see the surface," Nora said. "When the twin moons rise and the ice fields glow, it's almost like magic. I would like that very much." Word of the dragon reached Earth and the other human worlds within days. Government officials argued about what to do. Scientists demanded access for study. Military leaders warned of the threat. But the people of Kethris IV had already made their decision. Velothor was one of them now. In the weeks that followed, the dragon proved its value many times over. Its knowledge of alien technology helped the miners find deposits of rare metals they would never have discovered on their own. Its presence deterred the pirate bands that had long preyed on remote colonies. And its stories of the galaxy's history filled the colony's archives with knowledge that would take scholars decades to understand. But Velothor's greatest gift was something simpler. It was a friend. The dragon spent hours talking with anyone who wanted to listen. It told tales of civilizations that had risen and fallen before Earth was even born. It described worlds of crystal and flame, oceans of liquid light, forests that sang with the voices of forgotten gods. It answered every question with patience and honesty, never speaking down to its audience, never treating humans as lesser beings. One evening, Danny found Violathor coiled in the courtyard outside his workshop. The dragon had taken to resting there, its great body wrapped around the forge like a cat around a warm stove. Danny sat down on his workbench and watched the stars appear in the darkening sky. "You didn't have to stay," he said after a while. "You're free now. You could go anywhere. See all those worlds you've told us about." "I could," Violathor agreed. "But I choose to stay." "Why?" The dragon was quiet for a moment. Its eyes reflected the starlight, ancient and deep. "I have lived for thousands of years," it said. "I have seen empires build monuments to their glory and then crumble into dust. I have watched species conquer galaxies and then fade from memory as if they had never existed. Power fades, conquest fails, but kindness endures." The dragon turned its gaze toward Danny. "You showed me kindness when you had nothing to gain and everything to lose. Your people have shown me kindness even though I am strange and frightening. In all my long life, I have rarely seen such courage. I want to understand it. I want to learn from it. And perhaps, in my own small way, I want to protect it." Danny did not know what to say. He was just a blacksmith. He fixed broken things and made useful tools. He had never thought of himself as brave or special. "There's something else," Violathor continued. "Something I have not told anyone yet." "What is it?" "The Dominion still exists. They have grown weaker over the centuries, but they have not forgotten their empire. And they have not forgotten me. When they learn that I am free, they will come, not just for me, but for all of you. They will see my liberation as an insult. They will want to punish those responsible." Danny felt a chill run down his spine. "How long do we have? Years, perhaps. Decades. The Dominion moves slowly. But they will come eventually. And when they do, humanity must be ready." "Can we be ready? Against an empire that old?" Violathor's mouth curved in something that might have been a smile. "You ask me that question? You, who forged keys from ancient techniques and freed me from chains designed to last forever? You, who showed me that the oldest methods are sometimes the strongest?" The dragon lifted its head and looked up at the stars. "The Dominion fears your people, Danny Cole. They have always feared you. Not because of your weapons or your ships, but because of who you are. You preserve what others forget. You create what others destroy. You show mercy when others show only cruelty. These are the things that empires cannot defeat." Danny followed the dragon's gaze upward. The stars seemed very far away, but also very close, like old friends watching over them. "So what do we do?" he asked. "We prepare, we learn, we grow stronger together. And when the Dominion finally comes, we show them what humanity is capable of." Danny nodded slowly. It was a heavy burden, knowing what was coming, but it was also a purpose. Something to work toward. Something to build. He stood up and walked into his workshop. His forge was cold, but the coals still held a faint glow. He stirred them to life and watched the flames begin to rise. "Violathor," he said. "Can you teach me how to work void steel properly? Not just how to make keys, but how to forge real tools? Weapons?" "Yes," the dragon said. "I can teach you many things." "Good." Danny picked up his hammer. It felt comfortable in his hand, like it had always been there. "Then let's get started. We have a lot of work to do." Behind him, the ancient dragon watched with eyes that glowed like distant suns. For 800 years, Violathor had waited in darkness, dreaming of freedom. Now freedom had come, brought by a simple blacksmith who refused to forget the old ways. The Dominion would come, enemies would rise, the galaxy would test humanity in ways they could not yet imagine. But as Danny Cole began to work his forge, as the hammer rang against the anvil and the sparks flew like newborn stars, the dragon felt something it had almost forgotten during its long imprisonment. Hope. Not the desperate hope of a prisoner dreaming of rescue, but the solid hope of a builder seeing a strong foundation. Humanity was young and small and fragile by galactic standards, but they had something that older and greater civilizations had lost. They had the ability to learn, to adapt, to stand together. And they had blacksmiths who never forgot how to forge freedom from chains. Veilithor settled down beside the workshop and closed its eyes. The sound of Danny's hammer was like music, like the heartbeat of a species that refused to be afraid. The dragon listened and smiled and knew that whatever came next, it would not face it alone. Neither would they.